Hello everybody, it's Chrissy here. I've got another video showing my coloring process for this unicorn that I've done for Whimsy Stamps. I start with laying down a really generous layer of C1 without paying too much attention to blending at this point, just getting the color down and leaving all the areas uncolored where I'm going to want highlights later on. So when I'm putting down a layer of color, when I begin an image, I have an idea in my mind where I want the highlights already. And those are the areas that I leave uncolored, untouched at the very beginning. They'll get colored in later, but at the beginning they're not colored. And my second layer is C2. And as you can see, I'm not covering every part of the first layer that I laid down. And when I use C3, it's the same idea as putting C2. It's a little bit less, covering a little bit less of the area, so that I've got some form of transition from C1 to C2 to C3. I've skipped ahead to C5, and I'm starting to add some of the darker midtones. And again, as you can see, I'm not covering every part of the other previous layers. So as you add the darker and darker colors, you're adding less and less color each time. It looks a bit patchy at this point, but that's okay. It's all going to be blended out later. Just keep going with your C5, get in some nice dark shadows. But this isn't as dark as we're going. We're going to go even further. We're going to push it right to the limit, right to C10. And just remember, when you're adding those darker colors, like C7, C8, C9, C10, you're going to have to use less. And don't make the layer very thick. Make it very thin on the paper, because what happens is those darker colors have a lot more pigment in them. And the inks that have more pigment tend to pool on the surface of the paper. And it looks shiny and you can't do anything with it. It looks messy and it's all sticky. And that's because there's so much pigment, it doesn't absorb into the paper. It sits on the surface of the paper. I'm using B21 and I'm going over the whole image, going over every layer I've done, because I'm using B21 to blend out everything. And it took a lot of blending, a lot of layering of this particular color of B21. And sometimes I had to go back with previous colors and add more. I find for me, when I'm coloring, I do plan ahead, but I also improvise as I go. I'm not sticking to a plan stringently. I'm just following the need of the moment. So if I see that there's a particular shade that got blended out too much, or there just wasn't enough of it, I'm not afraid to just pick it up again and just go back in and add more layers. Of course, I wouldn't go over with C10 because that would just cause a problem with ink pooling, but I do go over with my C5, C7, C3, and of course B21, which I'm using to blend them all together. I'm starting to like how this is turning out. Sure hope you enjoyed watching how I colored my unicorn today. Bye for now.